Good evening, fellow Toastmasters. It is my honor and privilege to do the introductions tonight for our very special guest, Mr. Darren LaCroix. Whether you are a leader or a speech contestant, speeches matter. Do you focus on your presentation or audience impact? In 1992, Darren LaCroix bombed miserably in a comedy club in Boston, Massachusetts. As he walked off stage, the headline that night said, "Don't quit your day job." 9 years later, out of 25,000 contestants from 14 countries, he was crowned the 2001 World Champion of Public Speaking with a very funny speech. Not only that, but people are talking about his fall over a decade after he gave his unforgettable speech. There is no way Darren could have accomplished that without his coach, the 1995 World Champion of Public Speaking, Mark Brown. Mark and Darren have trained since 2001 tens of thousands of presenters literally around the world. They also brought their enthusiasm, insights, and fun to their weekly podcast called Unforgettable Presentations, when they sit down with the best presenters in the world to discover their secrets and strategies. After decades of coaching together, they have seen it all. In the next 60 minutes, you'll get their 9 do's and don'ts of the speech contest. Leaders, listen up. They apply to you too. But first, let's go back to Anaheim, California, 2001, when they are about to announce the winner.
And the 2001 World Champion of Public Speaking, Darren LaCroix. King Darren, your subjects would like to hear a few words from you.
Man, that's cool. My first prayers, I asked God if the other 8 contestants could just go over time. That's all I wanted. Again, thank you to my district, Dave McElhaney, Carmen, of course, the great, the one and only, the genius of speaking, Mark Brown, David Brooks, Ed Tate. The champions are so gracious, giving me wisdom and advice, and I knew I would work hard, but they helped keep me on the right track. Just one more little thing. Did anyone else ever cry during this thing? Am I the first one? Does that count as a gesture? I'll never forget. My dad probably doesn't even remember. He said, "I don't care what you want to do. Just be the best." And I am, Dad.
Because that caring and wanting to help people comes through in everything he does.
Darren cares about you. He's a mentor.
And how to deliver a speech, how to write a speech. So it's just, I think you get the full package with Darren.
Darren, as I said earlier, challenges you, and he wants me to get better. He wants me to grow.
Someone just said you're the world champion. What are you gonna do now? I'm going to Disneyland.
All right, thank you. What did you feel? What did you feel
curious, please pop it in the chat. As you watch that, what emotions bubbled up for you? Wow, excitement, humor, happiness, elation, amazing, inspired. Thank you. Glad you felt something. Here's right out of the gate. Here's the number one reason I show that. Because when you tell your stories, you need to write this down if you're taking notes, elicit emotion. Elicit emotion. If you want to have an impact, if you want to be that one that the judges, whether it's the judges or if you're a leader and you're speaking to a club or your district and you want to have them remember you or your points, you gotta elicit emotion. So, do you feel, just put a Y or an N or a meh in the comments. Do you feel a little closer connection to me because of that video? Okay, that is, thank you. That is the point. That is why I do that. Often we need to connect, always we need to connect before we can educate, entertain, or inspire. So, what is your biggest challenge when it comes to contest speeches or leadership speeches? Type it in the chat, please. What is your biggest challenge when it comes to this? Preparation and what to say. Okay. Content that has reached, formatting content. Yeah, the structure. Structure is so important. And I will tell you too what my coach asked me. Now this would apply to whether you are a leader or a contestant. Mark Brown first asked me when I had to write a brand new speech for the highest level of the contest, because you have to change your speech. In the old days, the top 3 levels. Nowadays, it's the top 2 levels. But when I had to work from scratch, he said, choose a child in your life. It's like, okay, where are we going with this? But I didn't have any children, so I chose my eldest nephew, Michael. He said, if you were going to die tomorrow, what one lesson that you learned from your life would you want to pass on to Michael to help him through his life? See, that forces you to go deeper. Not what's the winning lesson. People ask me, well, what's the winning formula? I don't know. I don't know your life. Because your life is different from your life is different from your life. What? I don't know, because I don't know your life. So it's really finding that story, finding that lesson that you care about. And then Mark said, put your nephew in the 4th row every time you present in your head and deliver it to him like it's your last time. And that changed my delivery. It changed my intention. Look, even as a leader, there are going to be people in front of you, a guest at the club. This is the one opportunity that you have to influence them, to help them with a challenge in their life, or to help them join Toastmasters. Make no mistake, there's some people who you'll never ever hear or see again. So, this is what I hear from contestants often when about coaching. They're like, I wish I started sooner. Yeah. I wish I got help sooner. Yeah. Great coaching comes at the beginning, not at the end. So if you want to avoid the mistakes that most presenters make, I encourage you, look, I've been coaching people, CEOs, Toastmasters, professional speakers for decades. And I'll put this up if you want to scan it. If you're a scanner, I'll pop a little link in the chat. Boom, if you would rather click the link. But you can enter your email. It's free, but these are top 10 speaking mistakes and top 10 virtual mistakes that I see over and over again. So if you're here, I'm guessing this is not your first program on creating a better contest speech. I'm here to tell you it's not your fault. It's not your fault. If you're not sure where to go and what to do and how to make it unforgettable, it's not your fault. If you've been concerned and frustrated, you're not just sure how to find and deliver a stronger speech, I'm here to tell you you can do this. You can do this. I didn't know what I was doing when I entered the speech contest. I had a couple stories I was telling, trying to become a professional, but then I had to start from scratch. Thank God Mark guided me, or I would have been, I would have never never made it. So I'm here to help two kind of contestants and leaders, new contestants who want to prepare and deliver like a champion, and experienced contestants who are looking for that crucial missing links. You know, they're really good, they're really confident. What are those tiny little tweaks? And by the way, I'm going to encourage you to take screenshots if you want. Feel free. I ask that you don't share it other than an email to your friends, but please don't share this on social media. This is my content, this is what I do for a living. I'm here for free. I want to help. My one request is you only share it with friends, not on social media. I love this quote by Jim Rohn. You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Well, think about that for Toastmasters. You're the average of the 5 Toastmasters you spend the most time with. When I got to the higher level, I started realizing Mark thinks differently because he was a world champion, but because he got trained and he got coached from another world champion, David Brooks. So consider, like, you might be the king of your club, which I thought I was at the time, but I wasn't world class. Don't let your ego get in the way. So Mark and I get consistent results when we coach people. 2020, there are 35,000 contestants, 105 semifinalists, 10 finalists. 2 of them were people we helped. 2021, 2 of them made it to the finals. 2022, 5 made it to the semifinals, 3 were finalists. 2023, 6 were semifinalists, 3 were finalists. Look, we don't coach people to win, we coach people to deliver a stronger speech. So what we learned along our journey, Mark was my coach. He was born in Jamaica. In fact, his uncle started the first Jamaican Toastmasters Club. Mark was a football guy. He calls it football, we call it soccer. And he had this amazing thing that I love pointing out. He was always a natural born teacher. In his high school yearbook, it said he's always seen her in the center of a crowd relating one of his experiences to his listeners. But listeners should make sure they have a dictionary. Mark's been a wordsmith his whole life. He and I are very different. Yes. And he came to the U.S., 18 years old, looking fine, 2 suitcases and a dream in his pocket and $40. And Mark found himself working for Reader's Digest, and they had a corporate club, and he found himself in the World Championship in 1994, and he did not place. So in 1994, he was consoling his young son. This is his son. And this man walked up to him. His name is David Brooks, the 1990 world champion. He offered to help Mark. And Mark graciously took his card. And David went around to all the other contestants who did not win and offered the same thing. Mark got home, put his bags down, traveling back from the convention in New York, and literally picked up the phone and called David first thing. And he said, "David Brooks, this is Mark Brown. Do you remember me?" And David said, "Mark, I met you yesterday." "Of course I remember you." So Mark, with David's help, went on to win the world championship the following year. But what was remarkable is David asked everyone. Mark was the only one who said yes. Which to me, I can't think that way. Mark can't either. Like, we don't get it. If somebody is where you want to be and they offer to help, why would you not take it? I don't understand. So again, Mark also won the world championship in 95, became a CSP, which means earns $50,000 a year of speaking income for over 5 years from the National Speakers Association. Mark suggests say yes when you're approached by a qualified coach. If you don't know my story, I was quiet, shy, introvert. This is me, number 21 in the sidelines. I did not love being on the sidelines. My dad took this picture. He got a brand new camera, was trying it out. I'm like, got mad at him. I'm like, "Dad, don't take a picture of me on the sidelines. I don't want to remember being on the sidelines." And he said, "But Darren, you're never in the game," which was true. See, I wanted to be in the game, but I was not doing what was necessary to be in the game. A lot of people want a stronger speech. They want to be a better a leader and speaker. But are you doing what's necessary? And if you don't know what's necessary, then find out. Make that step number 1. If you don't know my story, again, I opened a Subway sandwich shop in 92. I was super excited. I was going to be a multi-millionaire. This is sandwich number one. And yeah, I was going to own 20 stores. I was going to, go to the beach all the time, let other people run my business. And about a year and a half later, I actually sold the business at a loss, joyfully. I was happy to get out. I realized I love business. I didn't love that business. So I felt like that kid on the sidelines. It was devastating. So it was a very low point in my life in 1992. I was down and depressed. A motivational buddy gave me a motivational tape of a man named Brian Tracy. You might have heard of him. And I'm driving down the road listening to Brian, and he's asking these questions. And one of them was, what would you dare to dream if you knew you wouldn't fail? And I thought, I'd be a comedian. How cool would that be? But all of a sudden, the voice of reason said, but you're not funny, Darren, which was true. I wasn't funny. But that wasn't the question. So listening to these tapes, they said, go to people with the best. Maybe you're sensing a theme here. Go to people with the best. They think differently. So I walked into a comedy club, and this guy, the headliner comedian, name is Chris McGuire. I walked up to him and I said, hi, my name is Darren. I want to try this. What do I need to do? He asked me a question. He said, are you funny? I said, no. He said, good. Good? What do you mean good? He went on to explain that people who are naturally funny, people who are class clowns, he said that's one skill set when you're in front of your friends and family. But if you put that same person in front of a stranger-filled audience with 100 people there and handed them a microphone, they couldn't make them laugh. But he said that skill set can be learned. Yes, that can be learned. That was a big aha for me. He handed me an ounce of hope. He told me to go get the book, Stand Up Comedy, the book. I went and got the book, and he said, go to open mic nights and watch other people just starting out. So I went to a comedy club. I saw people bombing. I was like, what? This is inspiring. I could do that. That was horrible. And then a couple months later, I took the stage for the first time, and it was horrible. Here's a clip.
Anyone here live in New England? Yeah. I figured I had to get something to see. Did anybody ever notice that every other small town in New England takes one little small historical fact and makes it the greatest event in the world? Sorry for my voice, like fluctuating a little bit.
All right, I think you got the point. Fast forward to 2001, thanks to Mark, get this, asking me the right questions. So some of the questions that came up and the challenges that before we started was, how do I know what to talk about? Well, when I handed Mark the first version of the speech, he said, Darren, you're talking about failure. But there's no failure stories, personal failure stories of yours. And then I told him, I said, well, I used to do this old joke about my Subway failure. And he said, try it out.
After 4 years of business school, I went out and I went for the American dream. I bought a Subway sandwich shop. Oh, yeah. You're all impressed, I can tell. I don't want to brag or anything, but in 6 short months, I took a $60,000 debt, and I doubled that debt. That's right, I turned Subway Sandwich Shop into a non-profit organization. I financially fell on my face.
That joke was not in the original script. It took Mark asking me questions about my personal life to bring some proof and some stories from my personal life to help me make my point. So that wasn't in version 1.0. It took Mark to help mine my life. I am also a CSP, accredited speaker, and a world champion. So how are we different? Mark was a natural born teacher. I was a quiet, shy introvert. How we have one thing in common? We both had training and coaching from somebody who's been there and done that. So these are my coaches, Dave McElhaney. He helped me on level 3, 4, and 5, and 6, and introduced me to Mark, and then, of course, Mark Brown. Dave brought me over to Mark going for the championship. He said, Darren, I can't take you where I have not been. I can't take you where I have not been. He had never been to the World Championship, and that's why we say who you spending time with. So my question to you is, are you coachable? Are you coachable? Put in the chat, yes. Because I ain't helping if you're not coachable. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, we're making sure we're keeping this engaging here. Look, you got to be coachable. And I'll be honest, when I first met Mark, I was not. I thought I knew better. I thought he could just give me a couple tweaks. I needed a whole schooling. So this is what I call the math to mastery. Effort times a proven process. That was a book that was recommended to me. Gets you to almost mastery. We'll finish the formula a little later. So 3 secrets to delivering a stronger, creating and delivering a stronger contest speech. So the 9 do's and don'ts. We're diving in. If you stick around to the end, I'm going to pass by this. Stick around to the end. I have another free bonus for you if you want. So number 1, finding and clarifying your message. This is a starting point, and unless you get this right, you can't create the speech. I flew to give a keynote or breakout for Wells Fargo from Vegas to Nashville, and I was tired from traveling. I get in to the elevator. I got my hotel key. I come out of the elevator, and I'm tired and exhausted, and this is what I see. And I'm like, wait, what? That's a math problem. I don't know. All I need to know is, do I go left or right? Think about it. Someone designed this sign, and then someone else approved it. Both of them forgot the intention. That when I'm coming out of an elevator tired and exhausted, it's clear to me, do I go left or right? So I realize as a coach, this is what I have to help people do. They're too close to their own stories to see the power of it and how to make it more clear. So when you're done speaking, what do you want the audience to do, think, or feel? Now in 7-minute speech, it's an or. If I'm teaching keynote speaking, it's an and. What do you want them to do? What do you want them to think? What do you want them to feel? That's like the great starting point. And you've got to define it in 10 words or fewer. If you can't define it in 10 words or fewer, you're not clear. If you're not clear, no one else has a chance. You can't communicate something you're not clear on. So I asked Mark, what does he help? What does he ask a coaching client to get them clearer and go deeper? And that's the exact question I already mentioned. Choose a child in your life, and what lesson from your life would you want to pass on to that child? If you're a leader, what lesson from your Toastmasters experience would you want to pass on to a guest? Same idea. One's a little deeper. This was Michael. He was the one that I wrote the story for, and my nephews still quote my speech when we go home for holidays. So you have to be sure your message is clear for your audience. Clarify your message. Point number 1. Point number 2, crucial do's and don'ts of the speech contest. All right, we're just going to go through these. Again, take a screenshot if you want. Number 1, thinking your message is clear enough. That's what we just talked about, but I'm emphasizing it and making sure it's on the don'ts list. Number 2, don't give away your message in the title. The purpose of a title is to get people to want to hear what you're going to say. Not, okay, 3 lessons from my dad. Okay, get over fear. False evidence. Like, don't use anything cliche as a title. We're all Toastmasters. We're all in self-development. We all listen to motivational speakers. Don't do anything we've heard before. The goal of the title is to get us to want to hear what you're going to say. Number 3, don't implement all the feedback. In the next secret, I'll explain how to discern the difference between what to listen to and what not to. Maybe the most important lesson you get from this program. But you can't incorporate all the feedback. Why? Because 2 people are going to say go left, 2 people are going to say go right, and 3 people are going to say go straight forward. You can't incorporate it all. You can't. Number 4, don't imitate your favorite champion. You might like somebody's style. I love David Nottage's style. It inspired me to be me. But you can't imitate your favorite champion. After I won with my famous fall, For a couple years, there were people doing falls on the stage. You can't do that. After Darren Tay put underwear on over his suit, all of a sudden there were bras and underwears on it. No, especially if you want to do well, you're copying somebody else. Yeah, you might put your own slant on it, but no, please don't do that. Number 5, don't focus on winning. Think beyond the contest. If you want to be a professional speaker, think, here's a story I'm going to use someday in my keynote. But think beyond the contest. If you're going to put this much work and effort, why would you not want to use that story again? Why not make it a TEDx talk? Dhananjaya, world champion Dhananjaya, took a TEDx talk and turned it into a Toastmaster World Championship speech. If it's that message that matters to you, there are other stages that people need to hear that content. See, and look, I was guilty of this myself. I started by focusing on winning a speech contest after I got to the top level and getting paid. That was my intention. But Mark explained, look, Darren, when you can help the audience take a step in the right direction, make a better decision, when you can help make your intention for the audience's result, the side effect is you'll have a winning speech. But don't make the intention. I get people, well, what do the judges think? Who cares what the judges think? There's a judges forum. Be aware of it. But don't pander to the judges. They're not silly. They can tell. So again, make your intention that here's your one opportunity to tell your message to the world. What do you want to be remembered by? And you don't want to be remembered by, there's a gal, there's a guy who really, really wanted to win badly, who really, really wanted to impress us. No, help us. We all have challenges. Help us. Next, don't use overused topics like fear, goals, and love. Fear, goals, and love. If one of those topics really resonates with that lesson you learned from your life, don't use the word fear, goals, or love. Because as soon as that's in your title or you mention it, we're going to be like, yeah, I heard this one 1,000,000 times. It could be fear, but rename it. Don't call it fear. Call it something else if that's where your heart is. By the way, if you look at the history of the winners, these are personal stories. Aaron, a story about a wedding. Ramona, a failed marriage. Press, a flat tire. Mark, watching a Disney movie. Me, a business failure. Okay, these are simple, personal stories. Don't overdo it. Don't try and climb Mount Everest. Okay? Don't worry about the speaking order. Oh my goodness, I've seen so many people worry about the speaking order. In fact, I've heard David Brooks and Mark Brown tell stories of people who they find freaking out the day before the contest when they draw their number. And they're like, I can't win from that spot. Maybe number 1 or number 8 last. I can't win from that spot. Why not? So I studied 10 years of contest videos. That's 90 world-class speeches. They used to have them on VHS. So I got all of them. I watched it over and over again. I want to see what was the difference between the person who came in first and the person who came in second. What were those tiny differences? But what I noticed was 2 people back to back won from the number 1 spot. Because that was my fear, I was like, it is possible. Now it became a moot point. Many people lose the moment they draw the number. You're letting the number rule your content. Be more important. You get the number 1 spot. Set the bar so high no one can touch you. You get the last spot. Close it so strong they forget person number 1 or number 2. Find a way. But do not let the number take you out before the contest even begins. Next, don't over dramatize or go overboard with props. The point of props is to reinforce your message. Reinforce your message. Be that symbol of your message. There's been so many people, I've seen people who will set a stage, a cocktail table, chairs, and they'll set this scene. No. There's been so many gentlemen, I can't think of his name, but he used a single chair, but he used the prop in 4 different ways. Very simple, but it helped make his point. So don't go overboard with props. Props can overshadow your message. The purpose of props is to reinforce your message. All right, I'll leave this up if you want to take a screenshot. Don't force the humor to get laughs. We talked about this a little bit before, but don't slap a joke on in order to make it funny, add humor. No, don't force humor. Uncover it. There's organic humor in stories. A good story with conflict is laden with humor. Just find it. Get somebody to help you. Find somebody who understands that process of finding the humor to get some laughs. Usually the incongruity between the character and the situation. So these are my, after decades of coaching, Mark and I came together with these classic don'ts. So don't do that. All right. So maybe you're wondering, well, what do I do? Great question. Number 1, have a foundational phrase. This is that sticky phrase. Once you get clear on your message, step 2, create a foundational phrase. This was not even a thing when I competed. Ouch was my repetitive refrain, but a foundational phrase is that sticky phrase, 10 words or fewer, and has rhythm or rhyme. If you're taking notes, 10 words or fewer, has rhythm or rhyme. And this is what you want people to remember 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months after you are heard. Craig Valentine, world champion in 1999, coined this phrase. When I travel around the world, speaking at district conferences, the number 1 foundational phrase I hear was Denenjaya's, which is, I see something in you, but I don't know what it is. That was his foundational phrase. He executed so eloquently that people are talking about it in the hallway. Make that your goal, that people are saying your phrase in the hallway. And by the way, it can't be cliche. It has to be a twist on a cliche or something we've never heard before. Number 2, have a guru who taught you. We didn't learn the lesson when we were born. We learned it from someone, from a book. From me, I heard it on a tape. But who taught this lesson? Maybe it was an experience. Maybe it was an inanimate object that taught you that lesson. Have a guru. So name the guru. Let us know who was it that helped you. Could be a child, could be a grandchild, could be a pet. But let us know where you got this insight from. It didn't just pop into your head. It may have popped into your head from something that happened a decade ago, but let us know who is the guru who taught you. You don't have to go in deep detail or anything like that, but mention the guru. Number 3, think beyond the contest. Think beyond the contest. Again, why would you work so hard on something for a speech contest and then let's just say you come in second in the world? Okay. What are you going to do with that? Where else? Where else could you use that story? That's why I want you to think now about something that's so important to you that it's going to be part of a keynote, that maybe it's going to be a TED Talk, maybe it's going to be a moth story on a moth contest. But think beyond the contest now. That way you're more likely to put more work into it. I was using my first level 1, 2, 3, and 4. I was using a story from my keynote speech that I was getting paid for. I still had a day job, but I wanted to improve that story. My goal was not to win. My goal was to make that story better. So I pulled it out of the keynote and gave it an open and close to fit in the Toastmaster format. And I worked on it. I worked on it. With my whole goal to put it back in the keynote in an improved form. Craig Valentine says if you want a masterpiece, you have to master the pieces. And that's what I was doing. I joined the contest thinking beyond the contest. I was trying to build a career. I was trying to build a keynote. Next, write a 5-minute speech and deliver it in 7. we see over and over again people writing a 9-minute speech and they're trying to say it in 7. Well, in my practice, I came in at 7:02. I should be fine. No, you won't. Because in your practice, you didn't have a live audience in front of you. If you're speaking at Make It to the District, maybe there's 100 or 200 people in front of you. Well, those laughs are going to take time. I dissected the 10 winners from the 10 years before me, and I literally got a clicker out and I timed their laughs. And I looked at my speech and I added that amount of time in after the punchlines. Now, I got laughs I never got in practice. So it took up even more time. But write a 5-minute speech and take your time, deliver it in 7. Otherwise, you're going to stress out. And it pains me that I see people disqualified for time because they didn't plan on it. They didn't write a 5-minute speech. But I just have to say all of it. No, you don't. Create a keynote. But for this contest, write a 5-minute speech. I think Press's was one of the shortest ever. I think it was just under 5 minutes. Okay, understand the judges form. Don't be ruled by it, but understand it. Understand it. Go and practice at another Toastmaster club. See what categories you're weak in. See what categories you're strong in. Make your strengths stronger. Make your weaknesses up to par. Be unique, but not over the top. I mentioned this in the pre-questions. I kept asking myself, what's my 11? What's my 11? What's my 11? On a scale of 1 to 10, what's that thing that nobody's done, nobody's talked about, no insight was given that's going to make you stand out? And so for me, it was my fall. It was the fall at the beginning of my speech. We'll talk about in a second. But that fall, I went to David Brooks, Mark's coach, and I said, what do you think of this? He said, Darren, you might win by it, you might lose by it, but you need to stand out. And so what was cool is my fall wasn't to be dramatic. My fall was an illustration of my point. So no one could say, I was doing it for dramatic effect. It illustrated my point. It reinforced my point. That's the point. So be unique, but not over the top. Be authentic and vulnerable. Be authentic and vulnerable. That's what connects you. That's what elicits emotion. Being willing to say you bombed. Being willing to say, I show that here, my first time on stage and how bad it was. I showed you a clip of it. I proved it. My opening video, I showed me crying. Be authentic and vulnerable. It connects you to your audience. Mark Brown says authenticity plus vulnerability equals credibility. Authenticity plus vulnerability equals credibility. Have an audience-focused message. One of the most powerful words you can use in a keynote, in a leadership speech, or in a contest. You. Y-O-U. Because whenever the presenter says you, the listener has to think, oh, he's talking to me. She's talking to me. Oh, it engages the brain. If you go back and study my speech, you will see I had 34 you or your statements. 34. That's over 4 a minute. But nobody listened to my speech and said, wow, he's saying you a lot, because it was engaging. That was the intention. Now, 4 is, you don't have to have 4, but Mark says your story is about you, but it's for the audience. So where can we relate? Where in our lives do we see the same thing show up? And then have a memorable title. It's helpful to have a memorable title. It's not essential, but it's helpful. Does that make sense? Okay, take a screenshot if you want. We're going to go on to the last secret, and we should have a couple minutes for questions. So, use this as your speech checklist. All right, number 3, this is the big one, in my opinion. I got 141 written evaluations on my contest speech. How do you wade through the feedback? How do you know what to listen to? Get ready. I'm going to ask you a question, so I'm going to have you type in the chat. Remember, I said this before. Math to mastery. Effort, if you're okay with the truth. Look, if you're here and you want to be unforgettable, I'd love to tell you the straight path. That's not reality. It's not what it looks like. So, effort, you put in the effort. Your listeners put in the effort. If you're a district director, all the people who are under you, they put in the effort. We have to inspire them, but we can't be responsible for them. We're responsible to them. Plus a proven process. This is what I said before. But let's finish the formula. Plus qualified coaching. And that's whether it's speaking, speaker coach, or leadership coach. Experience. Having that person who can see what you're doing and why you're doing it and how you're doing it and say, how about this? How about you consider this way? If we're not coachable, we'll never ask that person for advice. So, do you agree? Does that make sense? All right. See, the proven process multiplies your effort. You make more ground if you're following something, not trying to DIY it. The coaching focuses your effort. It keeps you back on track. So, does that make sense? All right. So to be clear, there's two kinds of feedback. This is what I'm going to have you weigh in on. Number one, here's what I thought and felt. Everyone is qualified to tell you thought and felt. Everyone, even if they've never given a speech before, even your mother, your father, your kids. Number two, here's how to make it better. Be careful. Be careful, be careful. Scary zone. Only a qualified coach. Only a qualified coach. And it doesn't have to be a world champion, but somebody who's a good coach, who's qualified, who knows and been there and done that. So I'm going to ask you, number one or number two? Number one or number two? Okay, I'm going to quiz you. Get ready. So in my championship speech, I fell on my face intentionally, and I gave part of the speech from lying on the stage. When I went to 22 Toastmaster clubs, so I did 22 versions live at 22 clubs, here's the feedback I got. So you tell me, is this number one or number two? Number one or number two? Type in the chat. Here's what I heard. You were down too long. I was uncomfortable. You should get up sooner. You were down too long. I was uncomfortable. You should get up sooner. You were down too long. I was uncomfortable. You should get up sooner. So please weigh in. I'm watching you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm not sure what everyone means. Oh, so number one, sorry. Number two, thank you, David. One, Vonnie, Linda, Carly, Lynette, and okay. So, you're almost right. It's actually both. This is what I mean by discernment. You were down too long. I thought and felt that. Yes. I was uncomfortable. I thought and felt that. Yes. You should get up sooner. Wah, 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 wah. That's coaching. That's telling you how to do it better. You've got to discern. See, when I went to Mark with this insight, he said the exact opposite of everyone else. He said, Darren, our job is not to make the audience comfortable. It's to make them uncomfortable so they will change. Here's what he said. Stay down longer. Stay down longer. The exact opposite advice, as well-meaning, more experienced contestant fellow Toastmasters. Okay, so here's what it turned into. I'm going to ask you another quiz to type in, how did I use that feedback? So remember, 22 clubs, I was uncomfortable, you were down too long, you should get up sooner. How did I use what they said? Remember, I stayed down longer, took Mark's advice, because I wanted to elicit emotion. But see if you can notice what I did with that feedback they gave me.
Contestant number 5, Darren LaCroix. Ouch. Ouch. Darren LaCroix. Can you remember a moment when a brilliant idea flashed into your head? It was perfect for you. And then all of a sudden, from the depths of your brain, another thought started forcing its way forward through the enthusiasm until finally it shouted, "Yeah, great idea, but what if you fall on your face?" What do you do when you fall on your face? Do you try and jump right up and hope no one noticed? Are you more concerned with what other people will think than what you can learn from this? Mr. Contest Chair, friends, and the people way in the back. Ouch! Did you feel I stayed down too long? Have you ever stayed down too long?
Okay, what did I do? You can open your mics or you can type it in. What did I do? How did I use that?
Basically, what I thought was you engaged the audience with questions so they didn't feel uncomfortable with you being down and silent and how they should react. And then you incorporated the feedback by asking them, do you feel uncomfortable? That was cool. That was sharp.
Yeah, and thank you. A lot of the world champions said that's the moment I won because I connected so deeply. I got into their head. How did I get into their head? I went to 22 clubs and asked what they were thinking when I did that. It's just understanding the thought process in the listener's mind, which is the most important part of a presentation. The thought process in the listener's mind. It's not what you say, it's what we think about what you say. So you are absolutely correct. All right, we'll do questions in like 2 minutes. Oop, wrong one. So you got to get feedback. Look, stage time. I believe in it. I got into incremental growth. But when I got a proven process from Mark, knowing what to look for, everything changed for my impact. But when I got coaching on my style and my challenges, everything changed. Had I listened to well-meaning presenters, yeah, I would have lessened my impact. So number 3, again, is the importance of qualified feedback from people who know what they're doing, not just anybody, but people who understand presenting at a higher level. So let's take a couple minutes. I have one thing to, let me just wrap it up and then we'll take some questions. So if you got clear on your message, you implemented my do's and don'ts, and you got qualified feedback, could you deliver a stronger speech? That is the question. Okay. Questions. Well, are we going to host? Are you going to do them verbally? I would love to do them verbally. By the way, if you want a speaking trophy, buy one. It's a lot easier. So much simpler. All right, Jay, what do you got?
Hey, thank you for fielding the question. So in the couple of slides, you'd mentioned about going over dramatization and being unique but not over the top. Mm-hmm. And I saw your speech, and to me that was pretty big. You went big. So what does it mean, I guess, to do it too far versus be memorable?
Yeah, people say I have the best gestures. I don't do gestures. I wish Toastmasters could get rid of the word gestures, because a gesture is a rehearsed body movement that has no emotional connection to what you're saying right now. Okay, that was awkward, right? Because I was just doing gestures. I'm very expressive. So I was congruent, Jay, with the emotion of the moment and the characters what they were feeling. So yes, I was very animated, but that's part of my style. Mark Brown would tell you he would never fall on his face. That's not part of his style. I'm animated whenever I talk. I'm not even Italian, but I'm animated, but that's part of who I am. So it comes out naturally as opposed to me trying to be bigger. So if someone's naturally animated, then great, perfect. But if you're not, don't force it. So I don't. Am I answering your question, Jay?
Yeah, I guess the quick follow-up is if, regardless of you, if the character in your story is that way or they're feeling something to like a 10,
Yeah. So
can
well,
we go with that, Vic?
two
Go ahead.
things. You're close. Two things. Number one, if somebody was, let's just say, super scared, Darren would be like, "Ah, that's me because I'm animated." Mark Brown would be like, "Whoa," because that's more him. So either way, the key is, Jay, that the emotion of the character comes through from my delivery style. So again, don't be trying to act. Try to personify the emotion of the character. And by the way, a good story, there's an emotional shift in the character. So for you and me, we need to identify what's the emotion at the beginning of the story, where does the emotion shift, and what does the emotion become? So even in my little mini story, Mom, Dad, I want to be a comedian. I was met by silence. So there's that shift. So I come in excited and I leave deflated. So every good story, now it might not be that extreme, but there's got to be a shift in the story. I hope that helps, Jay, in the minute and a half I had. Linda, what do you got?
Hi, thank you, Darren. You talked about the you, whatever that was. I don't remember now the number, but you had many yous in your speech. Wondering how to compare that with a we, because I feel like, I mean, I'm sure there's reasons for both, but a we is more inclusive as opposed to a you, which is I'm here and you are you are in the audience.
Well, great question. You don't want to tell the audience, here's what you should do. You know, we need to do this. We need to be better at. So that is inclusive. There's nothing wrong with a we, but if I'm sitting here and you're the presenter, Linda, and you say we, I can be like, no. But if you say you, consider my opening. Do you remember a moment when an idea flashed into your head? That's not we.
Right. Otherwise, you sound like a nurse. How are we today?
Yeah. And so you're not incorrect. We is inclusive, but there's a time for we and there's a time for you. So I always say, and for everyone, this is one of my favorite world-class tips that I never learned in Toastmasters. Ask yourself, because I hear this a lot. Ladies and gentlemen, okay, I'm sitting right here. I'm not a lady or a gentleman. I'm a dork, but I'm me. So we want to connect more deeply with the person who's listening, whether it's virtual or live. So how would you say it to one person over coffee? You would never say, how many of you? If you were talking to one person, you would never say, you guys, if you were talking to one person. The power of you is you means you, but you means all of us. And we're the only English language is the only way it's that versatile that we can use it. So people feel a deeper connection when you use the word you. But notice I also wasn't preaching. I was just talking about their life. I hope that makes sense. So ask yourself, how would I say it to one person over coffee? And you would never ask a question, how many of you? I hear that all the time. What is how many of you? What's the literal answer to how many of you? That's a number. A number doesn't resonate with me or my life. It's like 13 of us raised our hand or 130 raised our hand. No, it's did I? Have you ever been to Vegas? Not how many of you have been to Vegas. Does that make sense, Linda?
Yes, good. Thank you.
Sweet. And I'll take another question or two, but if you want to scan this is free. 3 secrets to be unforgettable. You can scan that. I'll pop it in the chat too. Some people like links. And then I will give it back to the boss. If your goal is to get paid to speak, you can click on this one. I put both links in the chat. There's no charge. These are 59-minute programs, 59-minute trainings. Go at your own pace. This is what I would tell you over coffee. If you said, I want to be unforgettable or I want to get paid, here's where you start. So hope that's helpful. Back to you, boss.
Okay, great. Wow, that was fantastic, Darren. Thank you so much for your content tonight. I learned so much, and I know lots of us in on this, this event today learned a lot. This was really inspiring. And so how about a round of applause for Darren? Thank you. Very nice. Well done. And let me stop the recording because I think there's no more questions.
Could I share just one thing?
Sure.
Sure. I just wanted to quickly mention that Darren and Mark Brown, they actually helped coach me earlier this year on my winning speech that you may or may not remember about listening. And it was Mark Brown that asked me a question. Isaiah, why did you ask that? And that little slight change changed my whole speech into what you heard this year at my district champion. So that's the power of coaching and world-class coaching. Because everyone was giving me feedback, but it was Mark Brown and Darren that gave me that specific feedback that helped change my speech. So everything he said is true.
Thank you, Sias.
And that's part of that formula that Darren displayed. Get coached. Right, so if there's no other question, that's it for tonight. I know you have a lot to take with you. We did record. It will go up on our YouTube channel, and we will send out an email about that. Please subscribe to our YouTube channels. We're putting a lot of content up there this year, and for you to grow and expand and develop. So please do that. Last thing I'd like to mention is our conference that's coming up. If you see my background, you can scan the code to go to the page. We have the CEO of Toastmasters International will be the keynote speaker this year. It's the first for District 83. This is something you cannot miss. We have the early bird prices going on right now. And it's only the first 50 tickets, and we have sold quite a few already. So if you want to get in on that price for May 2nd to see Dan Rex, he'll be the keynote speaker. He's going to do workshops and a few things with our district. So looking forward for it, for everyone for being there this year. So thank you. And
What? Darren had his hand up.
Real quick.
Oh, go ahead. Didn't see
If
that.
you don't know Dan, Dan's amazing. Hearing him speak, he's the leader of Toastmasters, and he's been in Toastmasters in running the organization for years. Little trivia fact, he was the one who clipped my microphone on me in 2001.
Right. Nice. So you can't miss this event. This year is a once in a lifetime for us here at District 83 to meet and interact and listen to the CEO of this global organization. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Darren.